Chapter 5 Gosarata. Then the Bhagavan again addressed the youth Chandraprabha, saying, Therefore, young man, bodhisattva mahasattvas who wish for this samadhi, and wish to attain quickly the highest complete enlightenment of perfect Buddhahood, should think that they are like someone whose hair and clothes are on fire, and they should cast off father, mother, son, daughter, family, kinsmen, relatives, kindred, wife, and so on, as if they were fire, throw away all the pleasures of a kingdom as if they were a lump of phlegm, turn toward solitude, and depart from home. Why is that? Young man, attaining the highest complete enlightenment of perfect Buddhahood will not be difficult for a bodhisattva mahasattva who turns toward solitude and departs from home, let alone one who has this samadhi. Therefore, young man, you should always train in having this thought. I shall cast off friends, children, family, kinsmen, relatives, kindred, wife, and so on, as if they were fire. Throw away all the pleasures of a kingdom as if they were a lump of phlegm. Turn toward solitude and depart from home. Therefore, young man, you should understand this through the following teaching, too. Young man, in the past, countless, vast, immeasurable, inconceivable, innumerable asamkhya aeons ago, at that time and in those days, there appeared in the world the Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened Buddha, Gosadatta, who was perfect in wisdom and conduct, a Sugata, a knower of the world, an unsurpassable guide who tamed all beings, a teacher of devas and humans, a Buddha, a Bhagavan. Young man, at that time and in those days, in the first assembly of the Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened Buddha, Gosadatta, Sarakas, there were 800 million who were Arhats. In the second assembly, there were 700 million Arhats. In the third assembly of Sarvakas, there were 600 million Arhats. There were also countless bodhisattva mahasattvas who possessed the Dharma. Young man, at that time and in those days, during the time of the Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened Buddha, Gosadatta, the lifespan was 40,000 years. The Jambudvipa continent had wealth, increase, happiness, excellent harvest, joy, and it was filled with the great multitude of human beings. In this Jambudvipa there were two kings named Jurdabala and Mahabala. One ruled half of Jambudvipa and had wealth, increase, happiness, excellent harvest, joy, and was filled with a great multitude of human beings. The other ruled the other half. Young man, at that time, the Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened Buddha, Gosadatta, appeared in the kingdom of King Mahabala. Young man, for 100,000 years, King Mahabala provided the Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened Buddha, Gosadatta, the Sangha of the Bodhisattvas, and the Sangha of bhikshus with faultless, proper clothing, alms, medicine if they were ill, and monastic utensils for their use. Young man, at that time, the Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened Buddha, Gosadatta, the Sangha of Bodhisattvas, and the Sangha of bhikshus received greatly renowned gifts and honors. Brahmins and householders who had faith and also bestowed great gifts and honors on the Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened Buddha, Gosadatta, the Sangha of Bodhisattvas, and the Sangha of bhikshus. Those Brahmins and householders did this by following the example of King Mahabala, dedicating themselves to bestowing great gifts and honors by making offerings of worldly material goods to the Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened Buddha, Gosadatta, the Sangha of Bodhisattvas, and the Sangha of bhikshus. Young man, the Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened Buddha, Gosadatta, thought, alas, these beings who have adopted correct conduct and the Posada vows have come before the Tathagata, have honored the Tathagata, practiced celibacy, have entered the homeless life, and have become fully ordained bhikshus. They will go into decline. They are concerned about the happiness of their future lives. Why is that? It is because in their future lives their happiness will be from these offerings of worldly material things. The realms of the higher existences are the goal of these beings. They are concerned with this life. They are concerned with their next life. They do not accumulate roots of merit for the final ultimate goal. Young man, what are the roots of merit for the ultimate goal? They are pure conduct and celibacy, going toward the ultimate goal and reaching the ultimate goal. Bhagavan Gosadatta thought, I must teach those beings the Dharma so that they will be made the unsurpassable offering of the Dharma and the practice of the Dharma as their offering to the Tathagata. Then, young man, at that time the Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened Buddha, Gosadatta, with the intention of creating a revulsion toward samsara, recited these verses to King Mahabala, the Brahmins, and the lay people. The service of someone making a gift to another is not a cause for holding each other in high esteem. The wise ones, who are free of negative propensities, the Buddhas, they do not praise that service. Those who teach the Dharma for the benefit of beings, they are those who accomplish great service. There will form an unbreakable bond of friendship, which not even 10 million Maras will be able to break. The service of those who keep to worldly material things will all be for the benefit of the present life. The immaterial service of the Dharma leads to the greatest benefit for humans. Those who have a non-materialistic motivation and teach the non-material Dharma, those individuals who gain non-material joy, they will quickly attain Buddhahood. Those who are addicted to their desires, who crave for children and wives, who are addicted to their revolting homes, who will not attain unsurpassable, highest enlightenment. Supreme enlightenment will not be difficult to attain for those who avoid desire as if it were a pit of fire, who abandon craving for children and wives, and, frightened and terrified, leave their homes. There have been no Buddhas in the past, nor will there be any in the future or now in the present, who attain the highest, most supreme enlightenment while living inside their homes. Casting away a kingdom like a lump of phlegm, longing for solitude and living in the forests, eliminating the klesas and defeating the maras, they will realize stainless, non-composite enlightenment. People who, with a disenchanted mind, leave their homes, they are superior to those who serve for many millions of aeons, heroic Buddhas as numerous as the Ganges sands. People who leave their homes and practice the Dharma, without serving the supreme humans, the jinas, with food, drink, and Dharma robes, with flowers, incense, and ointments, those who, longing for enlightenment, disillusioned with the composite and for the benefit of beings, take 7 steps in the direction of the forests, they will have superior merit. Young man, King Mahabala heard what the Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened Buddha, Gosadatta, said about leaving one's home. Having heard this, he thought, I have understood the Bhagavan's teaching to mean that he does not praise the perfection of generosity, but gives the highest ultimate praise to the perfection of conduct. The Bhagavan has raised perfect purity, perfect celibacy, and perfect nirvana. He thought, it is not easy to practice the unsurpassable Dharma and attain its goal while living in a home. I would decline in my practice of the unsurpassable Dharma. I shall cut off my hair and beard, wear the orange robes, and leave home for homelessness. Then, young man, King Mahabala, accompanied by 80,000 Brahmins and laypeople, came before the Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened Buddha Gosadatta, bowed down to his feet, circumambulated the Bhagavan 3 times, and sat to one side. Young man, the Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened Buddha, knowing the higher motivation of King Mahabala, taught this samadhi, the revealed equality of the nature of all phenomena. Young man, on hearing this, King Mahabala was pleased, delighted, joyful, inspired, and happy. He shaved off his hair and beard, put on the orange robes, and with faith left home for homelessness. Having entered homelessness, he learned this samadhi, and having learned it, he understood it. He dedicated himself to the practice of keeping it, reading it, and meditating on it. Through that root of merit, he did not fall into the lower existences for 100 million aeons. He served 200 million Buddhas and heard this samadhi from all those Tathagatas. He learned this samadhi, and having learned it, he understood it. He dedicated himself to the practice of keeping it, reading it, and meditating on it. Subsequently, through those roots of merit, after 100 million aeons had passed, and then another 100,000 aeons, he attained the highest complete enlightenment of perfect Buddhahood. He became the Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the Arhat, the perfectly enlightened Buddha named Jnana Sura. He benefited countless beings, and afterward he passed away into perfect nirvana. Young man, the 80,000 people who with King Mahabala came into the presence of the Bhagavan, the Tathagata Gosadatta, all heard this samadhi also, and were delighted, rejoicing, and joyful. Happy and joyful, they cut off their hair and beards, wore the arge robes, and with genuine faith, they left home for homelessness. Having entered homelessness, they learned this samadhi, and having learned it, they understood it. They dedicated themselves to the practice of keeping it, reading it, and meditating on it. Through that root of merit, they did not fall into the lower existences for 100 million aeons. During all those aeons, they served 10 million Buddhas, and heard this samadhi from all those Tathagatas. They maintained this samadhi and comprehended it. They dedicated themselves to the practice of keeping it, reading it, and meditating on it. Through their previous roots of merit, after 200 million aeons had passed and a further 100,000 aeons, they attained the highest complete enlightenment of perfect Buddhahood. They all became Bhagavans, Tathagatas, Arhats, perfectly enlightened Buddhas named Durdusara. They benefited countless beings, and afterward they passed away into perfect nirvana. Therefore, young man, because of this teaching, the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas cherish in this way this samadhi. They know that it is composed of the unsurpassable wisdom of omniscience. Then at that time, the Bhagavan gave a detailed teaching by chanting the following extensive verses to the youth Kandraprabha. I remember countless aeons ago, in the past, a supreme human, a great sage, who benefited beings, appeared in the world, and he was known by the name Gosadatta. The first assembly of his students numbered 800 million. The second was 700 million. This third was 600 million arhats. All had eliminated defilements and were without kleshas. They had all attained the perfection of miraculous powers. Their lifespan was 40,000 years, and the realm was perfectly pure and beautiful. The bodhisattvas of that protector were consecrated to immeasurably benefit others. They were all well established through their powers and levels. They were near to Buddhahood beneath the sacred tree. In this Jambudvipa there were kings named Jurdabala and Mahabala. One king ruled half the world. The other was king over the other half. The Buddha, to whom humans and devas made offerings, had appeared within the domain of King Mahabala. The king gained faith in the Sugata and attended him for 1,000 years. Many other beings following his example also honored the Tathagata with worldly goods and not through the Dharma. They gave many things to the Sravakas also. The highest of beings had this thought: I shall teach the Dharma to those who desire the Dharma, so that they will all give up desire and enter into homelessness in my teaching. The highest of humans taught in verses the practice of following the Dharma of the Sagatas, the endless suffering and harm of living in a home, and that practicing the Dharma is offering to the Dharma. When the king, the sovereign, had heard these verses, that ruler of men contemplated entering solitude. He thought that all who dwell at home are unable to make the supreme offering to the Dharma. He cast away the kingdom like a lump of phlegm, and together with 80,000 persons he came into the presence of the Jina, bowed to his feet and sat before him. The Jina, knowing what they intended, taught this samadhi of peace that is difficult to see. Happy, inspired, and joyful, they were satisfied. Pleased and delighted, they entered homelessness. Homeless, they possessed this samadhi. They kept it, read it, and understood it. For 2,000 million aeons, they did not fall into the lower existences. Because of those roots of merit, they all saw 10,000 million Buddhas, and in the teaching of those jinas, they entered homelessness and meditated on this samadhi. In later times they became Buddhas, with infinite diligence, all named Sura. They benefited many millions of beings, and after, like an extinguished flame, attained nirvana. The one who previously had been King Mahabala appeared in the world as Buddha Janasura. He brought many billions of beings to enlightenment, and then attained nirvana. Therefore, you who, in later times, herein possess this sutra that has been taught by the Buddhas, if you possess this treasure of the Dharma, you will quickly become a supreme human. Conclusion of the 5th chapter, Gosadatta.